Hi, and welcome to another episode of Better Golfer Today, hosted by Tyler Dice Golf. We have a great show for y'all today. Last week I started by asking for some summaries of competitive rounds that you've played. And essentially what I'd like to get is to get some information, some feedback, about how you felt the round went. Like how your tee shots, approach shots, short game, putting, etc. How that went, positives and negatives, what you think you need to work on moving forward, what you plan on working on moving forward, and what things you thought were in good order at that day. And so, if you can shoot me an email, giving me some information on that, and, I'd really appreciate it because I'm trying to put together some more experiences from people to, really improve the information that I give people. So having feedback about what they experience really helps me, improve the content that I put out. So moving on, let's talk about the main topic, because this week's main topic is going to be on practice, and practice is important. But we're going to talk about practice this week. And as always, I'll be sharing what I'm working on, and this week's tip is going to be about tee shots. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, main topic is going to be on practice. So what's this mean, right? Where am I going with this? What angle am I attacking with practice? Today, let's talk about what to practice. Okay, let's start off with what to practice. Okay, full swing, putting, short game. How do you practice? What should you practice? What do you look for when you're practicing? Okay, that sort of stuff. So with your full swing, right? With your full swing, obviously with your full swing, you're going to look at tee shots and approach shots. That's pretty much all there is, right? Either you're hitting the ball off the tee or you're pretty much hitting the ball into the green. And a layup is essentially the exact same thing as hitting a shot into the green, except you're hitting it into a spot in the fairway, right? So full swing is going to be your tee shots and your approach shots. What should you practice? How should you practice those? What are the things you should look for when practicing those shots? Typically, what I recommend is I want people to develop go-to shots with their full swing. And what I mean by that is you need to get a shot shape that you can rely on no matter what. So when the pressure's on, the golf ball is going to curve a certain way. And, really, really good players can work the ball both ways. But really, really good players typically tend to work the ball one way all the time, most of the time. And then when they have to, they work it a different way. So let's take, for example, a guy like Rory McIlroy, right? For the longest time, for the majority of his career, he's been a guy that draws the ball, which means he works the ball from right to left. Recently, though, the last couple of years, he's worked really, really hard at developing that fade shot. So it means working the ball from left to right. This current year, 2016-2017 season, he has struggled working the ball from left to right. And a lot of that has to do with his rib injury that he's had. He just hasn't been able to swing correctly and perform at the highest levels that he's known to performing at. And so, that's difficult. That's difficult when you go and play golf and you go out there and you know that when you go out there that you can't hit all the shots. And so that stinks. And so for a player like that knows he can hit all the shots, but he knows that right now he can't, that's tough. So looping back to practice. What I like to do is I like to always recommend and help people develop, a shot shape that they can rely on, whether that's working the ball from right to left or working the ball from left to right. No, doesn't matter to me. I'm not partial to either one. I think both shot shapes are beautiful, and they work well. They both have their advantages and they both have their disadvantages. So, figuring out which one works best for you and then moving forward from that. And so when you practice, you want to practice that shot shape. You want to practice hitting your targets with that shot shape. And you should always make sure you're able to do that. Hit your targets, hit your spots with that shot shape first. So when you go to practice, you need to set a baseline. Figure out, hey, this is, when I'm hitting shots good, this is how many times I can expect to hit the green. Okay, and this is how accurate I am with my distance control when I am hitting the green. And so getting a baseline and figuring out like what that is, that's a great place to start, because if your preferred shot shape is a draw, okay, that's what you do the best with. But you're still only hitting, 1 or 2 greens out of 10 from a certain yardage. That's not very good. And even though, you have your shot shape down, your next step is, getting more consistent and being able to hit more greens. And so, figuring out the shot shape, that's going to be the best thing to start off with. Number 2 is going to be is definitely getting more consistent. And the best ways to get more consistent is to nail down your fundamentals. That would be your setup, your posture, your lineup. Your alignment, your grip. Okay, those are your fundamentals. And your stance. Okay, those are your fundamentals, and making sure your fundamentals are correct and repeatable will definitely help you hit or be more consistent on your approach shots. And moving on from that a little bit is making sure that you're getting the club in the correct positions for you when swinging. Okay. So if you don't have a perfect golf swing, there's going to be obviously imperfections there. And those imperfections are going to have a negative effect on the outcome of your shots, right? And so the key to playing good golf isn't to necessarily have a perfect golf swing. It's to have the imperfections have the least amount of effect on the golf shot. Okay, does that make sense? So when you're practicing, again, you're getting that shot shape down, and so you're setting up for that appropriate shot shape. And then the next thing is, goal is going to be to eliminate the imperfections that have the biggest impact on that shot shape and that distance that you're trying to hit the ball. So if you need to fly the ball 155 yards, okay, and you pull out your 155 club, if you catch the shot really thin, okay, it's going to come down well short of the green. If you catch it thin and you're trying to draw the ball, it's not going to draw. It's going to stay out to the right. So hitting shots thin is going to have a big impact on that consistency and getting you the result that you want. And so if there is a certain thing in your swing that's causing you to hit shots thin, eliminating that or correcting that is going to be, pay really, really good dividends for you in improving your consistencies and your ability to perform at a desired level. Okay? So eliminating things that cause the big problems and starting from there, it's a great place to start with, and it's a great thing to start with your practice. Okay? So again, like we started off, we talked about shot shape, and we talked about getting more consistent, so your fundamentals, and we've talked about practicing to eliminate the imperfections in your swing that cause the biggest problems. And so those areas are going to be what you're going to want to look at, first for practice. Again, it's not about being perfect. It's not about having the perfect golf swing. Last time I checked, there's only one guy that you could even make the argument that has a perfect golf swing on tour. And that would be Adam Scott. And off the top of my head, I don't remember him winning any golf tournaments this year in 2016, 2017. So even with that great golf swing, and just for the record, he putts pretty good. He doesn't putt the best out of everybody, but he still putts pretty good. And his short game's still really good too. So even with all that, he still hasn't won this year. So the perfect golf swing shouldn't be the end-all be-all. It's about scoring correctly. And so again, that's why I said it's about eliminating the big imperfections. And then, so once you eliminate the big imperfections, it's about identifying what the small imperfections in your golf swing do and how they affect the ball flight. And then, when you figure that out, taking it to the golf course is pretty simple. Because if you know what you do and you know where your misses go, you can do a really, really good job planning on the golf course for the hits and the misses, okay? If your miss is going to be a straight shot out to the right, and there's tons of trouble to the left, right? Well, if you aim to the center, to the right side of the green, you'll know that you'll never be in trouble. Okay, you'll know that you'll be either on the green or just off the green to the right, and you'll have a pretty simple chip. Okay? And so knowing that and being able to play that on the golf course is a great way to help. That helps take your practice game to the golf course and the stuff that you've developed on the practice tee to the golf course. So that's a pretty big deal, and again it's one of those little things that, like, I ask these questions a lot. Like, hey, like, how do I get my game to from the practice tee to the golf course? How do I take my practice game to the golf course? You know, I do so well when I'm practicing, but I can't take it to the golf course. Well, just these are the things that you develop that translate well to taking it to the golf course. Okay. And so, without overloading you too much on your full swing, let's move on from there. But again, that's in a little summary. Okay, we talked about the fundamentals. We talked about improving the bigger imperfections in your golf swing, and we talked about getting the correct preferred shot shape down. Okay, so those are the three things that you want to work on with your full swing. Next, let's talk about putting. Right? What should you practice with putting? Typically, golfers who shoot really high scores don't make very many putts. And it's crazy, right? Like, you know, people that don't score well don't get the ball in the hole very easily. So, you know, it's crazy, right? It's something, you know, it doesn't make too much sense, right? You'd think people that don't score well would actually get the ball in the hole, but no, it's if you don't score well, you never get the ball in the hole. And so, right? So if you want to get the ball in the hole faster, if you want to make more putts, what should you do? I always recommend telling people to practice inside 5 feet. So really focus hard on those 3 to 5 footers, because it doesn't really matter how bad of a putter you are, unless you're the worst putter in the world. But, you know, most people can make putts inside 3 feet pretty regularly. Okay, it's not you're not very far away from the hole. I'm not saying you're going to make every single one, but most people can make those putts, and they can do so even with bad technique. But yeah, so you want to make sure you're practicing putts inside 5 feet. 3 to 5 feet is what I would recommend starting with, because if you can get good at making 3 to 5 footers, you know, on the putting green, and what I'd also like to add in there is when you're practicing 3 to 5 footers, I would recommend switching holes every maybe say 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, because typically you're doing you're putting balls in a circle around the cup, so you're moving, but like maybe say after 10 minutes, move to a different hole and putt again for a while there, and then move to another hole and putt again for a while there and move to another different hole. And so what's happening here when you move holes is you're getting putts that break differently, and you're getting putts that break differently in different areas around the hole. So, you know, move holes. Because again, that's something, by moving holes, you're not memorizing what the putts are doing, because you're changing it up. And so you're keeping things different, you're changing it up, and by switching things up, you're actually keeping your brain function at a higher level, because your brain's actually having to work harder to process the data. And so you'll actually learn more about yourself and about your putting by constantly changing things. It'll be harder, and your brain will actually fight you on it, because it is harder to do this. But again, it'll pay bigger dividends down the road, and your brain will actually learn to get used to it and like it. So you'll have to do other things later on to change things up and to keep your brain more activated. But anyways, to start, just keep switching holes around. So yeah, keep working on those 3 to 5 footers. That's pretty critical. But when you get pretty good at making 3 to 5 footers, you can move out 3 more feet and start working on putts inside 8 feet. Now, the putts inside 8 feet, these are, as Dave Pelz referred to, as the golden 8 feet. The golden 8 feet is where the majority of putts are made for amateur golfers. And really, it's a majority of putts are made for just golfers in general. And so your highest percentages of putts made happen inside 8 feet. And then once you get outside 8 feet, it drops off dramatically. It just falls right off a cliff. And then when you get outside, say 15 feet, pretty much all the percentages after 15 feet are the same. There's just a little bit of difference between them, and they really fall off. So you want to keep focusing on making putts inside 8 feet. So start off in the 3 to 5 foot range. Then when you feel good, you're making putts, bump it out to 8 feet, and making putts inside 8 feet. And again, like I said, switch up holes. You constantly want to be changing things up. If you feel yourself getting into a rhythm or getting into a routine with your putting, switch holes. You don't ever want to get into a routine or a rhythm putting. You don't, because that does not translate to the golf course at all. I mean, when do you ever walk up onto a green and be like, "Yeah, I got this." I've been, 4 or 5 jacking the last 4 holes. I got this down now, right? No. Like the goal is to have as few putts as possible. So after a couple putts, you want to switch things up, because typically in a round of golf, you're hitting a couple approach shots, you're hitting a tee shot, an approach shot, and then you're putting. You're not hitting 7, 8 putts and then hitting a putt that matters. So you want to keep changing things up, keep your brain on its hypothetical toes, so to speak. And then lastly, you want to make sure you get the speed right. Okay, now what I mean by that is you need to hit the putts so that they roll a consistent distance past the hole if they miss. You don't want one putt to roll a foot past, and then the next one roll 3 feet past, and the next one roll 2 feet past, and the next one roll 18 inches past, and the next one roll a foot past, and the next one roll a foot and a half past, and the next one roll 3 feet past. You don't want that. What that does is that's going to throw off your reads and throw off your performance on the greens. Because typically you're reading the putt, and you're reading the putt for a certain speed. And so if your speed that you hit the putt doesn't match up with that read, your chances of making that putt go down considerably. So you want to make sure the speed that you read the putt is the speed that you're hitting the putt when it comes time to execution. So get that speed right, okay? So not crazy, but the speed's pretty important. Moving on, let's talk about short game, right? What should you practice with your short game? How should you practice your short game? I always recommend people that they get go-to shots. Go-to shots are really, I can't talk about enough how important they are. I mean, they are a big deal. Go-to shots are a huge deal. You need to have shots around the greens that you can just automatically say, this is giving me issues. I'm confused. I don't really know what to do. What's the best technique to use? Just use go-to shot. Hey, this is my go-to shot. I'm just going to make it work with this. And that's actually a really good idea around the greens, is making it work with the best that you have. And a lot of times you can do really good with that. You can get some really, really good results just doing the best you can with what you got. Where you start getting in problems is trying to do too much, or trying to get too cute, or biting off more than you can chew with that short game shot. So develop your go-to shots and stick to them. Okay, I always recommend getting 1 to start, and then develop 2, then develop a 3rd, then develop a 4th. And if you go and play around a golf and you come to a situation where one of those 4 go-to shots don't work, then you need to ask yourself, all right, well, how often do I experience this shot? And if the answer is, this is the first time this year I've experienced this shot, and it's December 31st, then you can just chalk it up to, it's golf, it happens. But if it's the 10th time you've experienced this shot, and it's January 2nd, this is a shot that you need to seriously consider developing into a go-to shot. Because if you experience it a lot, then it's obviously something that you experience a lot in your golf course. And the whole point behind having a go-to shot around the greens is something that you experience a lot on the golf course. So develop your go-to shots, and develop shots that you experience a lot of on the golf course you play the most. And so, that's what you want to start off with your practice with your short game. Next, about short game, I would like to add that the entire goal of short game is to get the ball as close as possible to the hole at all times from anywhere. Sometimes you can't get the ball very close from where you are around the greens. But most of the time you can. And so the goal is always get that ball as close to the hole. And if you can get it to go in, that's great. But you want to get the ball as close to the hole as possible with your short game. That's just the goal. So that's what you want to be working on. moving on. Let's move on to how should you practice on the golf course, and like what should you practice on the golf course. When I go onto the golf course, I am typically, I have goals that I try to do, and so for me, my goal is to hit every fairway. So for my home course, that's for the front nine, that's 7 fairways. I try and hit every green. That's 9 greens, and I like to have 15 putts. So that's 3 birdies. That's my goal. My goal is my home course. It's a par 71. The front nine is a par 35, and so I am trying to shoot 32 every time I tee it up. That's my goal. That's what I try to do. And so when I go to the golf course, if it's a quote unquote practice day, I am working on helping myself score better. I'm working on the shots that I need to hit to get the ball closer to the hole on the holes that I'm expecting myself to be able to birdie. Now, there's some challenging holes on my golf course. Some really, really challenging holes on my golf course. Like, take number 8, for example. Number 8 from the back tees, which is where I play, is 480 yards, which doesn't sound too crazy difficult, except that it's a dogleg right, and you can't hit driver because of the dogleg. And, well, you can, but it just brings in out of bounds, and it brings in a hazard, and it brings in rough, and it brings in a really, really bad lie. So it's not a very popular thing to do. So what everybody does is they hit either, say, they usually hit a 3-wood off the tee. And the 3-wood will sail like up to the top of the hill, which is more than ideal, but that still leaves you right around 200-ish yards into the green. So it's a challenging hole, and the green is perched up on top of a hill. There's like 4 bunkers left of the green, big, deep bunkers, because the hole slopes has a slope kind of from right to left, especially on your approach shot. So anything that doesn't hit the green kicks really hard left, and there's actually a hazard over there too. So if you actually mix the bunkers left of the green, you're going into a hazard. And there's trees all to the right of the green, trees and some thick rough. So it's not an easy hole. So there's, like I said, there's some challenging holes, and that's just number 8. We have some simple holes, like we have a little par 3 that's like 150 yards. So it's simple little par 3. There is a hazard left, short, and long, or left, short, and right on that little hole, but it's 150 yards from the back tees. It's not a long hole at all. So we have some easy ones, but we definitely have some challenging ones too. Some demanding holes. Definitely some demanding holes out there. And so so like I said, when I go out there, I'm trying to practice for a score. And so whatever I can do to get me more prepared to hit more better shots out there, to get me more birdies, that's what I'm trying to do when I'm practicing. So, I practice on scoring better. I practice on saying, hey, is this the right club to hit off the tee that's going to give me the best chance to make par or better? Okay, and so I ask myself that, and I work myself through that process, and I'll hit different clubs. So take, for example, number 5. It's like 450 yards, 460 yards, somewhere in there. And it has a creek that you have to carry in order to get to the fairway. It has a creek to the right of the fairway, and it has another creek to the left of the fairway. And the farther you hit it, the more narrow the fairway gets, and there's more room to the left, on the left side, than there is on the right, because the creek comes all the way to the fairway on the right, whereas on the left, it's got 20 yards to the left, 25 yards to the left of the fairway on the left. However, anything that hits on the left side of the fairway will kick farther left and go into the rough more, or even into the woods, and leave you with a really, really difficult next shot. So again, that's a challenging hole too. But what I've been doing is I've been hitting drivers, I've been hitting 3-woods, and I've been hitting hybrids off this hole to try and figure out, hey, what's the best way to play this hole? Where can I, because this is a hole that I say, hey, this is a par hole for me, unless I hit a good iron shot or make a putt. And so I have no problems, putting pressure on my iron game a few times around to just, have to man up and hit a good iron shot, especially when there's more trouble off the tee than there is into the green. So, and I've been messing with trying to experimenting, hitting different clubs off the tee, hitting them to different spots in the fairway to see which avenue gives me the best chance to make par. So again, I experiment hitting tee shots. I experiment working the ball left to right, right to left into greens to see which one gives me the best chance of holding the green or getting the ball close to the hole. So I do stuff like that. And then always, I work on my fundamentals in the golf course. I can't stress enough how important they are, so work the fundamentals. And so that's about all I got for you on the main topic. I tried giving you a pretty good overview of the things that I look at when I practice and the things that I recommend practicing and how to practice and what to practice. So, hope you enjoyed that. So next up, let's talk about what I'm working on, right? What am I working on? What am I doing in my golf swing that needs work, right? So what I'm working on right now and for a long time, I like to get my weight shift happens too early on the downswing. So I'm getting all my weight too far to the left too soon. And so I'm working on that not happening, and then I'm working on releasing the club and my arms to the shot better. And so those are the things that I'm currently working on. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. That's what I'm working on. Let's move on. Tip of the week. Okay? Weight shift. Because, that's what I'm working on. And so it's really, really easy to shift that weight too early on the downswing. It's really, really easy to shift that weight too late on the downswing. So typically what you like to do is you like to stay centered throughout the golf swing. But a lot of people like to get some lateral movement. So my tip's going to be quit with the lateral movement and focus on staying centered longer during the golf swing. It's going to help you hit more consistent shots. And if you're like me and you like getting that weight too far left, especially with your chip shots, it can be a really, really booger. Keep that weight centered. And that's all I got for y'all today. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate you spending the time and taking in my content. So thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. Stay tuned. I got lots more great stuff coming down the pipe. So stay tuned for more episodes. But yeah, thanks for being here and listening. And I'll see you on the next episode.